Welcome back to the While We Wait podcast, the podcast about abstinence and celibacy. My name is Winter and I am your host. I have been abstaining from sex for 3 years and yes, I am waiting for marriage. Season 2 is now sponsored by, and yes, that's the entire season. Season 2 is now sponsored by Sharico. Sharico is a Black woman-owned soy wax-based candle and more company. They are based in the Bay Area, California. You can find out more about Sharico by visiting www.shopsharico.com. That's www.shopsharico.com. I'm super excited for season 2. We're bringing you guests, we're bringing you games, we're bringing you fun, we're bringing you super exciting conversations, we're bringing you music, we're bringing you a lot more this season, and it's all thanks to our sponsor, Sharico. Once again, this entire season of While We Wait, the podcast about abstinence and celibacy, is brought to you by Sharico, a Black woman-owned soy wax-based candle company based out of the Bay Area, California. And not only do they make soy wax candles, they make reed diffusers, linen sprays, body products, shower products, and more. It's self-care in a luxe way. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing dating and what it means to be marriage-minded in your 20s and, how we can maneuver dating as 20-somethings. Now, if I didn't already mention it, let me mention it. I'm a 23-year-old cisgendered Black woman living in America. This is important to note because it just provides you some context so you can understand where I'm coming from when I make certain statements and claims and share certain opinions of mine. I think it's important that people know the framework in which I am working in when listening to this podcast. So I just wanted to put that out there like that. Let's get into today's topic. So I wrote a thread on Twitter that sparked some people's interest, and I wanted to turn the thread into a podcast episode because I had a ton more thoughts, and I just felt that Twitter might not be the most appropriate place to share those thoughts, to really truly flesh them out. So first, I want to just go through the thread with you all so we can, have some context and all work together. If you'd like to read along, my Twitter is at lilsnowbabe. So that's at lilsnowbabe, at lilsnowbabe. That is my Twitter. If you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, my Twitter will be on the screen. And also, I didn't even mention this yet. Hey now, the podcast is on Apple Podcasts. Aren't we excited, y'all? That was not as difficult as I thought it would be, but it also wasn't super easy. But honestly, getting your podcast listed on Apple Podcasts is not the most difficult thing to do. A quick Google search and you can figure it out and you can get your podcast listed. I am working on making While We Wait, the podcast about abstinence and celibacy, available on other streaming platforms. It just takes some time because once you do submit your podcast, it has to be reviewed and accepted, and every platform has their own review period. So I just wanted to put that out there so you guys know. But no, I guess you could say I did prioritize getting on Apple Podcasts, but that's just simply because I know that is where most people would want access to the podcast from what I received in feedback. So I did prioritize getting it up on Apple Podcasts because previously, before episode 7, which is this episode, you could only listen to the podcast on Buzzsprout or on YouTube. So Congrats, 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 congrats to me and you. We're on Apple Podcasts. Now, to the thread. So I started my thread talking about how I date and why I date and what I'm dating for, right? Because we're all dating with intention. How intentional we are with those intentions is another thing. But we all have some intentions behind why we're dating, even if you are just dating to find people to just have sex with, if that is your thing. You can also just be dating to find friends. People do that as well. Like I said, what our intentions are a whole nother conversation. That's not what I'm going to be discussing right now in this moment, but let's get through this thread. So, tweet 1. And this thread went out on January 9th, 2021, and I am recording on January 11th, 2021. Do I date to marry? No. Do I enter relationship with the intention of marriage? Yes. Dating is not being in a committed, monogamous, romantic, and sexual relationship with someone. Dating is expressing your romantic and or sexual attraction to someone and getting to know them with it being understood, because it has been verbalized, that you are romantically and or sexually attracted to them and interested in entering into a committed monogamous relationship with them, or non-monogamous, whatever. I'm speaking for me though. And in this thread, I'm speaking about my views, my wants, and my desires. So monogamous it is. I also want to point out, I keep saying and or romantic sexual attraction because sexual attraction does not equate to romantic attraction, vice versa. Romantic attraction does not equate to sexual attraction. Let us not erase our asexual and aromantic brothers and sisters and peoples. Now let's continue. You should be dating to experience people. You should be dating to get to know people. You should be dating to have fun and express interest in people, to learn what you like and don't like romantically and sexually. Dating is fun. Let it be fun. I'm a marriage-minded woman, meaning I desire marriage and a committed, monogamous, romantic, and sexual relationship with a man. Because I am marriage-minded, it means when I enter relationship, it's because I could see myself married to them. Being marriage-minded does not mean I view every man I date as a potential husband. No. Now, a man I enter into relationship with is being considered for marriage. Yes. Dating and being in a relationship aren't the same thing. Let's make this clear. And let's do away with the talking phase. That's called dating. Be grown. Be the grown adult that you say you are and call it what it is. You're dating people. Yes, you're dating multiple people, as you should, but you're dating people. They're not your committed partners. You're getting to know them. When we reduce dating to the talking stage / phase, we do a disservice to ourselves. Dating is absolutely casual. I want to repeat that. Dating is absolutely casual. But dating is casual until it's not. Dating is no longer casual once you enter into committed relationship with someone. Let's be clear with our language so we're not confused in life, because confusion is a choice. The reductive language we use around dating is why, I believe, so many people aren't enjoying dating, and they just aren't enjoying being in a relationship with people. So how do we fix that? As I've been saying, We need to change our language. Don't allow someone to reduce your dating period to a talking stage or phase. If that's what they want to call it, leave them alone because they don't respect themselves, you, or what y'all are doing. So stop fooling yourself and get serious about what you want. How can you be upset that someone isn't respecting you in the dating period when they won't even describe it as that? The dating period. They're saying that they're talking to you, babes. You talk to people every day, don't you? Don't you? Exactly. Don't go for that BS. People let you know how serious they are about themselves every day in their language. Are you listening? If you know that you desire marriage, if you know what you desire is a committed monogamous or non-monogamous romantic and sexual relationship with someone, be sure that your language reflects that when you speak. When you speak, you're casting spells. So speak what you want over your life and be explicitly clear about it. Be as detailed as you can be. All I'm saying is don't play yourself by allowing someone to downplay you in what y'all are doing. Seriously, let's be real, okay? Be honest with yourself about what you want. Now that's my thread with a couple of added bits, pieces here and there because I needed to clarify a few things. That's why I said I didn't think Twitter was the most appropriate place, but I got my tweets off and that's how I felt. Now let's flesh this out. I am dating as someone who knows that sex has been taken out of the equation. And I would say that in my understanding, in my coming into adulthood, in my teenagedom, my adolescence, sex was definitely an emphasis in the dating phase. Now, I did not have sex for the first time until I was 18. So it wasn't like I was having a lot of sex when I was dating. I had boyfriends. I had, boys I would go on dates with and boys I liked and crushes and stuff like that. But I wasn't engaging in sexual activity very early on, so to speak, in the dating phase. But I would say with the people around me, my peers, friends, older, younger, when they were talking about dating, right? Getting to know a person, there was this really heavy emphasis on already having sex with them, which I was never with. I never really was with that because I've always known very early on, once I was aware of like what sex is, I always felt like, I feel like I'll probably need to be pretty close to a person before I can really engage in that. And that holds true till this day. I credit that. I credit feeling like that being a reason as to why entering into a state of celibacy and abstaining from sex has not been a very difficult experience for me, and why I've been able to maintain for 2 years, entering into my 3rd year on my 24th birthday. I'm going to keep talking because I live in the city, so you're going to hear police sirens and maybe some shouting and screaming out the windows. You're going to hear some things, but I'm going to keep talking. Moving on. So I've always understood that when it came to dating, that at some point there was going to be this like pressure to perform sexually. And that doesn't mean that it had to be like penetrative intercourse, but I just knew that, I guess, right, from conversation and what I was hearing and learning from my friends was that at some point after the 3rd or 4th or 5th date or whatever, there was going to be some sort of expectation that we, myself and the person who I'm on a date with or am dating at the time, are expected to perform sexually with each other. And that always kind of made me uncomfortable. And I think it's why I shied away from dating. I will say I wasn't very open to getting to know people in a romantic way. Really not until college. And even in college, I very much kept to myself. When people did express interest in me, I would reciprocate it if it was someone that I wanted to reciprocate the feelings for. But I still would say I was pretty timid. And I know that for years, because I knew that this sex was a performative activity that could be done to, pretend to have a really deep connection to a person, or it was some type of way to express how you are feeling. I performed it a lot. In college. And although I didn't have that many partners, and I only had I had two boyfriends in college. So I had two boyfriends during my time in undergrad, I still wasn't really having that much sex. And I really think this is just because I just, I felt that I had been performing it for so long that I was tired of doing it. And I felt that I didn't understand why it was such a emphasis on it in dating, like in just a dating. I would really go on dates and I would be so exhausted in the first 10 minutes because before we even get to people's middle names, somebody's already asking you what your kinks are and tell them your wildest, crazy, experience. Or the conversation just takes a shift into the sexual. And that makes me tired. That actually makes me like physically exhausted because I know where that's coming from. I understand that for men, there is this feeling that there's this feeling of conquest, right? That after a certain number of dates, they need to be rewarded. I'm not saying that every man feels this way, but what I am saying is that we cannot deny that that is not part of the socialization of men, regardless of race and ethnicity and truly even religious background. If we're going to be honest, that is something that they are socialized in. So it's like, I get it. I don't really want to go as far to say like, it's not his fault. It's not their fault. But, I'm just saying like, when you're socialized in something, that's what you're socialized in. That becomes your thought process unless you do the work to unlearn it. And what I have been doing for the last 2 years, going on 3, is I have put myself through the process of unlearning a lot of what I was socialized in around dating and sex, to the point of what dating even is. I really dislike the term the talking phase because, like I said, that's reductive language. To say that you're talking to someone that you have gone on multiple dates with is to reduce what it is you're doing there. And I think on some level, that might even be a coping mechanism or a form of like mental protection that we put up, right? We put up this wall of the talking phase to shield and guard ourselves so we don't catch feelings or we don't get into it, or so we can tell ourselves, well, it's not that deep because we weren't dating. We were just talking. But it's like, no, but you were dating though, right? Because I'm pretty sure you guys went on, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 planned excursion. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys were dating. Like, you picked her up, took her out, y'all met halfway at the place and saw the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys planned events, and you planned these events around the understanding that you wanted to get to know each other better with a already verbalized and understood mutual sexual and or romantic attraction to each other. So why are we trying to reduce that down to just talking to each other? You're not just talking to each other, though. What you're doing is you're building a relationship with each other. That's what you're doing. You're building a relationship with each other. You might not have entered into relationship with each other yet because, well, it's only been 4 dates, or it's only been 7 dates, or you've only been dating for a month. Everyone has their whatever, their little rules and protocols, and who cares? But I'm saying all of this to say, yes, you are, and yes, you were dating. I think if most people look back to the many talking phases or talking stages that they have gone through, they could probably put them in tiers. Now, you could say some were more serious than others, but let's examine the ones that we would consider to be more serious than others. Why are you continuing to call that a talking phase? Or why are you trying to reduce what you did with that person? I want you to examine that. And I'm not like, this is not like rhetorical. Like, I've done this. So what I did was I sat down and I literally listed out the names of all of the men that I have either been romantically attracted to, sexually attracted to, romantically and sexually attracted to. And then in that list, made another list from those same names of the men that I actually had either dated, been in relationship with, or had a sexual relationship with. And from that list, I was able to have a very honest conversation with myself. And I understood that I should not try to downplay any of what happened in any of these dynamics. If you ask my friends, I always say your friendships are relationships. And this is because I feel that we need to use the word relationship far more often than we do, because when we use the word relationship, there's something that's happening in our mind. There's something that's happening in our brain that is making us take what we consider to be relationship more serious than anything else. Because there is a general understanding that if you are in relationship with someone, it is to be taken seriously, right? There is to be a certain level of respect, understanding, care, and concern, and appreciation, gratitude, there. So to say, and even to just accept that someone is talking to you or you're talking to someone, that you know what that is? That's you telling yourself you're not serious. That's what that is. That's you telling yourself you're not really sure what you want, and you don't really care if the person you're talking to knows what they want, because you're not honest with yourself. You don't know how to be honest with yourself yet. So you're gonna play. You're going to play around with your own emotions, and you're going to play around with your own safety, peace of mind, and wellness by allowing someone and yourself to say that you all are just talking to each other. Because you guys don't care about your own feelings, and you don't care about what you want, and you're not serious about it. So you don't mind if the universe, God, however you'd like to speak, delivers something of lackluster to you. And if we're going to be honest, that's not God or the universe. That's you, baby. That is you attracting you Okay, like attracts like to yourself. Examine yourself, examine your spirit, nurture your spirit, and examine what it is that you want. What I have learned in my dating experience since I have entered into a state of celibacy and abstaining from sex until marriage is that when you remove sex from the equation, you really have to talk to people. And I'm a big talker. That's why I have a podcast. I love to talk. All of my report cards say I'm talkative. And I said, you know what? One day I'll be paid to talk. One day people will listen to me speak because I have something to say. And I think the way in which I communicate what I have to say and my thoughts is unique and people want to hear it. So I'm going to share it. So here we are, episode 7 of the While We Wait podcast, a podcast about abstinence and celibacy. Moving on. You have to, really examine yourself and look at what you're attracting because like attracts like. This is not to say you deserve, what's happening to you and blah, 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 blah. No. Just look at what you're attracting because what I have learned is that you really got to talk to people. And since all I do is talk to people, right? You learn a lot. You hear a lot. People tell you a lot. And I promise you wouldn't even want to even have sex with people if you really talk to people. Like if you really went on like 7 dates with a person with the understanding that like there will be no, like we are not sexualizing this. We're not having sex. This is not going to happen. Just, you're just saying this to yourself. You don't have to announce it to them. You can if you want. Like I've always said, your abstinence and your celibacy journey is for you. And in dating, it is not something that needs to be thrown out on the table in the first 2 seconds of conversation. For me, when I bring it about in conversation, it's very organic. It, like I said, most of the time on dates, I don't even know how we even get there. But, the conversation usually will take a turn to just to a sexualization of something. And men are so funny because it'll be something so like not sexy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you'll be taking a sip from your drink and a comment is made and then it's like, oh, so do you like this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why are we? So then that's usually when I'd be like, hey, so, and then I just introduce it to the conversation because you got to let people know when you got to let people know. And people will usually let you know when they need to know something. That's what I tell myself when it comes to my abstinence and celibacy and introducing it into the dynamic when I am dating someone. So that's something I've learned. And like I said, dating is casual. Dating is casual and dating is fun. And I think that we police ourselves a little too much. And if you ask me, I think the reason we police ourselves too much when it comes to dating and dating multiple people is because I would say many people are also having sex with people that they're just dating. And people don't want to run up their roster. People don't want to have too many names on the list. So that's why, I come on here and host this podcast because I just want to offer, a little perspective. And again, like I always say, I am not the sex police. I'm not here to tell anybody that they need to enter into a vow of celibacy and enter into a state of abstaining from sex until marriage like I have done. But what I am saying is maybe just, wait a little bit before you do that, especially in dating because you don't know people. And that's another thing, too. Y'all don't know people, okay? Like, you're dating them. That's why I said dating is casual until it's not. And you're dating multiple people as you should. The entire point of dating is to figure out what you like. It's for you to narrow down, okay, who do I think could really be a serious contender? Who would I like to put more energy into? Who's more this? Who's more that? What is fulfilling? What is making me feel good? What activities, behaviors, mannerisms, personalities am I attracted to, and why? I'm always examining why I am attracted to something. I'm always examining why I am attracted to a certain kind of person. And I believe that being in a state of celibacy and abstaining from sex until marriage has really helped me just clear my mind when it comes to dating, and really be able to sit down and do a proper assessment of a date and a person that I am dating, because you need to do it. You really need to do it. You really have to sit down and ask yourself, okay, why was I attracted to this? Why did that comment invoke this kind of physical reaction from me, or mental or emotional reaction from me? I really do sit with myself and do that, because this is my time with myself. Singleness is a blessed time, because there will come a time where I am not single anymore, and I will not be able to do this work in the same way. It is not to say I won't be able to do this work at all, but I won't be able to do this work in the same way. So as a single person, I want to be doing my what? What is that word? What is that word? I, as a single person, would like to be doing my due diligence in getting to know myself better, as I'm getting to know other people better. My best friend Kelsey said something so beautiful when this man was trying to holler at her. And her way of respectfully declining his advances was this. Kelsey said, I appreciate it. Thank you for the flattery, but I am getting to know the people that I know better. So no, thank you. And that, whoa, boom, baby, that blew the wig cap off my head. Blew the wig cap, take the wig off, edges snatched. I was like, Kelsey, girl, that is a philosophical word. That's why Kelsey is my best friend, y'all. I love Kelsey so much. But yes, getting to know the people that you know better. And somebody you already know really well, or maybe not so well, yourself. So get to know yourself better as you're getting to know the people that you know better. Word to Kelsey, my best friend. And I really loved that word, because, and I sat with it. I sat with that. She said it as a one-off comment, and we have discussed it since in great detail. But I really sat with that, because what it did for me was it made me realize, oh, that's what you've been doing this whole time, Winter. Okay, all right. Okay, that's what you've really been doing. Because sometimes, right, when you're doing something, when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to verbalize it. And another reason why I started the podcast is because I wanted to get better at verbalizing my experience being in my 20s as a woman who is practicing celibacy and has entered a state of celibacy and abstinence and abstaining from sex until marriage, because I know that it is an experience that many other people share. I cannot say how many other Black women share. That's also another reason why I started the podcast, to create community, not just only for Black women, but for Black men and Black peoples of all kind to share their experiences, because I believe it's something that we need to be discussing, because I exist. I exist, right? I think, therefore I am. I exist. And so we exist. And I am a huge advocate for telling your story yourself. So long as I can tell my story myself, I'm going to. And right now, I'm in a chapter of my book that I'm allowed to speak about in real time as I'm experiencing it. And through my sharing, other people, I pray and hope, are able to better verbalize their own experience and what they're coming into understanding of with themselves by being in a state of celibacy and abstaining from sex until marriage. Because singleness is a really beautiful thing. I think sometimes we want to run away from being single because I think, and again, I'm in America. So when I say what I see, what's marketed towards us, media, keep in mind that I'm speaking about American media and marketing and conditioning. Also keep in mind it's North America. Now back to my point. I believe that what we are conditioned to believe is that being single is something you shouldn't want to be for too long, right? An emphasis on too long. But what exactly is too long? What does that mean? And who gets to dictate that, right? And if you were to ask the media what it seems like, for me, I'm an old maid, if I'm not married before I'm 30. And I just don't agree with that, and I rebuke that. Now, do I have my own little personal timeline that I would like to stick to? Of course I do. Everyone does. I don't think we should pretend and play around and, try to act like we don't have timelines. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of While We Wait, the podcast about abstinence and celibacy. I am your host, Winter. Make sure that you leave us a 5-star review and make sure that you are sharing the podcast with your friends, family, coworkers, just people walking down the street. Whoever. Just let people know that this podcast exists. I'm so glad that you sat down and listened to what I had to share today. This podcast is really truly a labor of love, and I appreciate every single one of you who listens. Make sure you check the show notes to know how you can further support the podcast by donating, sharing, sending in emails about topics you would like to hear and content you would like to see me create on the podcast. I'm just super excited. Here we are once again, another year, 2021, season 2, and we're sponsored by a Black woman soy wax candle company, Sharico. We're doing it! So thank you for listening, and make sure you check out our sponsor for the entire season, Sharico. That's www.shop.com. That is shopsharico.com. It's self-care in a luxe way.